Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us. I am going to get this into present mode. I'm Jake Canal, head of the Americas with Top Employers Institute. And kick back, relax. I'm joined with Adrian Seligman, our exec board member and chief commercial officer. We'll do some brief intros of ourselves, but we're going to go ahead and get started. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to take you through the question on this slide, which is, are you ready for the AI-powered leadership era? I'm calling in from Brooklyn, New York today. Adrian's calling in from just outside of London in the UK. But sit back, relax. Maybe you're to the end of your day. Maybe you're getting ready to enjoy some lunch. Sit back, relax for some story time. We're going to kick in. So Top Employers Institute really exists to build a better world of work, but we're always looking at things like this kind of story, this study on how the world of work is shifting and changing. And so this is a study, just think to yourself, maybe you've read it before, maybe you've seen it before. It took place in 2024 and the results were shared earlier this year in 2025. It's called the Cybernetic Teammate Study. It's a field experiment on generative AI reshaping teamwork and expertise. And it was done by Harvard Business School, Wharton, and Procter & Gamble. And essentially the story behind this study was that they wanted to see Procter & Gamble employees, about 776 of them, between the research and development and commercial functions. They wanted to ask the question of how can we get the best ideas out of our people and how can we use AI to help do it? And so what they did was broke out these team members of 776 people across the Americas, across EMEA, and they basically asked the question based on Procter & Gamble's innovation priorities. Give us an idea for a new product, a new marketing communication or message, or a new kind of internal communication we can base future products on, right? They were looking for the best ideas. And so they broke people out into 4 different groups. 1 was individuals using AI. 2 was individuals without AI. 3 was teams of 2, 1 from R&D and 1 from commercial functions using AI. And then 4 was teams of 2, R&D and commercial functions without using AI, right? Just for context, as they were looking for the best idea, they had 22 human beings that were rating the ideas, and they rated those ideas blindly. So they didn't know where it was coming from, where the idea started, whether the team was using AI or not. And the findings were published in March of 2025. They're pretty interesting, and some of you might think, yeah, that's kind of right on point of what I expected. What were their findings? The results were as follows. The time savings on all the way to the right was the most kind of expected. I had someone ask me, oh, it only increased the efficiency by 16%, and we're seeing 80%, right? So it depends on the use case. But time saving in this case was that participant using AI completed the task 16% faster. It's also worth noting that those that were using AI had a 1-hour training, right, in advance of this exercise, and also had a prompt sheet to help them get to the exercise. The other interesting bit all the way to the left is the performance element. Individuals paired with AI matched 2-person team quality. Individuals paired with AI matched the quality of idea of a 2-person team. When you're thinking about the rewiring, the reorganization, maybe you're experiencing the transformation, this is impacting org charts, right? It's impacting team sizes, it's impacting levels. That's kind of part of that element. Expertise bridging, this one came up. AI flattened functional silos between R&D and commercial. Maybe no surprise there, because now you're talking to maybe a peer in the AI itself that is having you take more of a broad perspective. This one on the bottom right stuck out the most to me in that breakthrough ideas. The AI plus 2-person teams were 3 times more likely to produce top 10% ideas. A lot of organizations are going through transformation, not just for fun, but to drive better, bigger outcomes. And so when you're thinking about innovation at your organization, it's the 2-person teams plus AI that seem in this study to have generated the best ideas. On the left side, on the bottom, emotional benefits. This is getting into the topic of the day. AI boosted positive emotions, reduced frustration, and reduced the emotional friction that takes place with high stakes creative work when people were asked about the overall experience. It can be really hard to get something started, move something through the middle, meat of what you're trying to do, and then complete something. There's a lot of emotional friction involved. And so those that were using AI reported more often, less frustration, and better emotional benefits. So when you're thinking about AI powered leadership, that's the topic of today. Think about not just the efficiency and productivity, think about what is the implication for human beings that are now maybe experiencing a better overall emotional state from using the technology and able to focus more so on productivity. Adrian, over to you.
Thanks very much, Jake. And you did a terrific job introducing me, so I won't add too much more on that one. I'm in the UK. It's starting to get dark because it's the depths of winter. But this is not a dark subject. So the question in front of us here is, how will leaders evolve to integrate human and artificial intelligence together? And in that study Jake just shared, there was kind of a privileged position there because those leaders involved in that program, they were trained, observed by both Harvard and Business School and Wharton as well. And it'd be amazing if all of our line managers had support like that for each and every decision they make on a daily or even a weekly basis. And that is just not the case. So hence, that's why we took this deep dive into how the worlds of AI and leadership intersect to try and give all of us and the HR community at large just some advice, some pointers on where to go. Now, also conscious, there's quite a few people dialed in today. Some of you will have heard of the Top Employers Institute, some maybe not. The important thing is the data that we do our research team to our PhDs to actually crunch to come out with this type of research. So if you just figure me out, I just want to spend a moment on that data and where it comes from. Diving in first, we are an HR certifier, and we get to that certification by auditing organizations around the world. So there's over 2,400 certified organizations. You can see from the map, that's the countries that we certify organizations in, 125. So the data is not skewed to any particular location, which we like. Same for industries. There's 26 industries in there as well. And that's great because anyone who comes into the program, we want them to be able to get great benchmarks, great insights, which are relevant to their own business. When you crunch all that together with the amount of survey questions, either scored or non-scored in there, it gives us over 1 million data points, which we get to play with to look for interesting correlations, outcomes from the work that we're all doing across HR. Now, just one more little glimpse into the methodology. If you jump forward one slide, please, Jake. This is the shape of the survey. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but there's 6 domains that spans everything to do with HR. So in the middle, you've got that whole flow of attract, develop, engage. You've got the steering strategy side of the business there. Shape is around the environment, the digital setup. Unite is then about, I think everything that gives that organization a sense of purpose, things like ethics, culture, etc. as well. That gives you a very high overview. There's a whole number of topics, and right at the end of this presentation, we'll give you a glimpse of the topics that sit under there, and then it goes down further again into the policies and practices, the things we actually do on the ground to affect some sort of change in our organization. So that gives certified organizations the ability to benchmark themselves against others around the world. The really fun bit comes on the far right of this slide. This is the bit that I think Jake and I and others in our business absolutely love, is when we start looking at what do organizations who are achieving great revenue growth numbers do that maybe organizations which aren't growing so much don't do. Same for market share, same for profitability. We look at employee engagement and internal promotions as well. So we do that. The methodology there is to divide the group into highly profitable organizations, less profitable organizations. And what are the highly profitable ones doing more of, again, all the way down to that policy and practice level, which perhaps the lower growth cohorts are not doing. And we check to say, make sure it's statistically relevant, the differences between the two. And we just wanted to share that because there'll be a few data points across the coming slides with this AI-powered leadership piece, which will mention these things, and it's good for you to know where that data comes from. Just finally, maybe draw your eye to the bottom of this slide. We do tend to work with the large multinationals around the world. They have a certain level of maturity when it comes to HR. And think about all the specialist domains in there, all that great work that our teams do across the full HR spectrum. That's the kind of zone that we inhabit here from a data and from a client point of view. Now, we also like to interact outside the confines of our own survey environments with you all in the HR community. Like lots of organizations, lots of consultancies out there, we're very interested in what's coming down the line. So at the top end of 2025, we asked senior HR leaders what their HR priorities were for the year ahead. And you can see in red, leadership development, AI integration came up right at the top. I think we're all expecting AI integration. Leadership development at the same time was really coming from just how do we help leaders navigate in a time of incredible change that's going on right now. Put all those two things together and you can see why we've now double-clicked on AI-powered leadership, that intersection of the human alongside the tech opportunities as well, and how does that all come to life in the world of work. So with that, we'd love to hear from you, and I'm going to pass back to Jake.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, look alive, everyone. If you're listening in and maybe you have another tab up, this is where you come back to the conversation. We want to hear from you on this question. Which single business outcome do you think leaders should focus on across the next 6 months? Which single business outcome? So take your phone out, scan the QR code, or go to slido.com and put in 1271461. We want to hear from you. Now, while this is populating, I'm just going to walk you through the different options, right? We're asking HR leaders these questions all the time. Decision quality and analytics is one. Employee experience and retention, productivity and cost efficiency, revenue and customer impact. So while you're submitting responses, we actually asked this question at the Gartner HR Symposium as well. Adrian and I presented on a similar topic there. And we asked about, it was an audience of about 160, about 75 chimed in. I'll show you their response in just a minute, but I've got another question for you following this one. So look alive, stay engaged, and this insight will actually help you as well in your job as you're looking across what your peers might consider investing in and focusing on. So one more time, which single business outcome should leaders focus on across the next 6 months? Not just HR leadership, but all HR, just all leadership, excuse me. All right, we got about 30 responses. Looks like productivity and cost efficiency is taking the lead. Interesting. Okay, more coming in. I'll take a beat. Get your answer in. If you want to be included in the data set and you want your voice to count, please submit it. Your voice matters. We'll give it another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're going to cut it. 35 people responded. Productivity, cost efficiency took the lead. All right, we're going to ask you one more question after I show you how this compares to what we found out at the Gartner HR Symposium in Orlando. Interestingly, productivity, cost efficiency was number 3 at that event. This is just a couple weeks ago. Many of your HR executive peers. They said revenue and customer impact at that event. Why did they say it? Partially because I think many of them saw the keynote that same morning or the morning before, which asked the question, what are CEOs most prioritizing as they look to 2026 strategy? And the response to that question was revenue and customer impact. How are we going to grow revenue? How are we going to impact customers? Right? So part of this conversation as well for you is, how do you shift, maybe leveraging leadership or AI-powered leadership just from productivity to really HR as a growth driver as well, right? Okay, next question. This one is for the same 36 that responded. Bring us some more. In one word, please share what defines AI-powered leadership to you. I'm going to limit you to one word. You're all leaders on this call. You can do it. And then we'll show you kind of the one word we heard at the HR Symposium a couple weeks ago. And then Adrian will help define what we see AI-powered leadership as at Top Employers Institute. So we've got 3 responses: agility, create, augmentation, efficiency. All right, we need some more so we start to see how this cloud populates. Okay, efficiency, augmentation, starting to take the lead. Some other ones coming in: consistency, empowerment, knowledgeable, professionalization. This is good. This is a good group. We'll give you some more time. Cooperation, priorities, insightful decision-making, agility. Nice. Here we go. Now we're getting the We got 3 participants typing. All right. So we're getting close to our 30 mark. Empowerment, augmentation, efficiency are the 3 biggest on the cloud right now. What did they say at Gartner a couple weeks ago? Not too far off. Efficiency was the number 1. And I think it was the number 1 for this group too. Efficiency comes up time and time again. So Adrian, would you enlighten us? How does Top Employers Institute define AI-powered leadership and the AI-powered leader?
Yeah, thanks, Jake. So if we're going to say something like, or come up with a term like AI-powered leadership, we do need to define it in some way. So with a bit of a health warning, you can see there's quite a few words here. There's a lot in this, and we're going to come back to that. This will be the meat, if you like, of this webinar, is it's going to be unpacking this statement. But I'll just read it out for us. So an AI-powered leader is one who integrates artificial intelligence into their leadership practice to enhance, not replace, human capability, using technology to amplify judgment, empathy, and purpose. So they unite machine intelligence and human insights to create organizations that are both high performing and deeply human, ensuring AI serves as a catalyst for ethical, connected, and forward-looking leadership. So we have a model, which is the main piece of the research that you'll have access to at the end of this, with 5 pillars in the model, and Jake and I will go through those 5 pillars with you.
And as we're going through this, I would encourage you, Adrian and I we really like hard and difficult questions. So be thinking of questions for the Q&A. We'll save about 10 to 15 minutes to take questions openly and answer them. But let's dive into pillar number 1, the pillar of digital confidence. This is understanding AI deeply enough to be able to question, evaluate, integrate it with confidence, right? You have a lot of maybe AI vendors you're working with, you have a couple. Do you have the confidence to question them on how the data is structured, where it's coming from, how do you reduce bias? All those nitty-gritty questions that actually do matter. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about digital confidence. You might have it maybe as an HR team, but do your leaders have that skill, right? We saw last year, employees were using AI on a consistent basis. They had the edge on leaders. This year it's flipped. Leaders tend to be using AI more often than employees in many use cases. But when we ask the question of leaders and of employees, how much of your job do you see today being augmented or automated by AI? Employees said about 30% of their job, their tasks, right? Leaders, on the other hand, only said 20%, right? So we're flagging this as a key opportunity for leaders to acknowledge and understand there's probably more they can be unlocking and improving using AI than they think, right? And there's a lot of qualitative things about leadership that I think maybe some people are hesitant to use AI to improve. We want to talk about how the AI-powered leader is actually improving both productivity, but also employee experience. So what's a key action you can take looking forward? Develop and launch a structured AI fluency program that you can share with leaders at all levels of your org. A really quick example of this could be to train leaders, maybe a 1 or 2 page document that's bulleted out on critical questions they can ask when evaluating new vendors for new AI solutions or technology for the business, right? Really simple, really straightforward. That's how you guide the organization. Adrian, talk to us about pillar 2.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. So number 2 is what we call human-centered design. And there's so much pressure out there right now to go after those productivity gains. You all use the word efficiency in the word cloud there as well. So when we think about AI and automation, we're thinking about probably the balance sheet, the profit and loss of your organization, and some really radical ways you can make that business much more profitable, or improve systems as well. And it has been so attractive. I think we've been through 2 years of radical experiments when it comes to AI. But now things have settled a bit. I think we're all coming to a realization that AI is the most amazing channel as a means of getting things done, but you still need those amazing things to get done. And since AI can't do full-on reasoning, it's not general intelligence yet. We absolutely need our leaders in there to be running our businesses when it comes to that kind of innovation there as well. And that's the same for our employees. So when we look here at human-centered design, it's exactly that. And if we jump onto the next slide, thanks, Jake. What we see is that high profitability organizations are 7% more likely to be bringing AI in to enhance the employee experience, not just think about it as a, how do I run this warehouse in a smarter way, irrespective of humans or not, and do I need the lights on, yes or no, because maybe there's no humans in there at all. That's an extreme case. But there's lots of ways you can improve and really help organizations create meaningful work embracing AI here as well. The big but comes with the next data point here as well, that only 4 out of 10 actually see AI as an enhancer of employee experience rather than just a cost saver. Yeah, I get that. With investors, supervisory boards, they're reading all these same headlines that we're all reading as well. They're very attractive to what's possible here when it comes to the bottom line savings for businesses, and our efforts have skewed that way, which is why we're seeing those words like productivity, efficiency gains, and those things are there. They just don't stand alone by themselves. It's good to jump into some of our clients who are working in the program. We have a whole best practices library here too, and we're going to take your eye to the back of this slide. I won't ask for anyone to guess exactly where we are here, but this is Belgrade. It's a very beautiful city here at sunset. We're in Serbia, and NLB Commercial Bank is a client of ours here. They submitted a best practice to us all about AI leadership, and the business there, right from the top leadership of that business, decided they wanted to create an environment where AI optimization was absolutely celebrated and completely transparent and overt in their business. And linking to Jake's first point, we can't suddenly take our leaders from today and magically make them these AI superstars, but that's what they did. They put together a real deep dive training program and created 87 AI champions within the bank. And they were trained not just in interrogating opportunities critically to see whether they really would move the needle and how you should evaluate a particular opportunity, but also trained to facilitate their teams and individuals across the business to be comfortable looking and flagging optimization use cases. They put forward a whole AI hub area, so that's where everyone could interact, everyone could submit opportunities for improvement, and to date they've picked up 50 that they've taken action on already. And it's taken the fear away, because there is still a lot of fear out there in our workplaces about that classic, will AI take my job? When you really get into the detail that sits behind it, you can become much more comfortable with where AI automation and human needs to come together to make sure we have really successful companies. So in terms of what we could do next, the key thing here is having an AI experience map, because it's quite rare that AI is going to sit across one very defined process here. So there'll be multiple touch points across different value chains within your business, but mapping that out. And what we're flagging here is the opportunity for HR to step up, because there's a lot of sort of silo-based design going on when it comes to AI now. And we've all talked about AI's glory moment in COVID, where business processes were reimagined. We were all moved home safely. Business continuity was looked after. So kind of similar thing here. There's all manner of things going on in different silos within the business, but there's no clear ownership. Our business leaders can't quite do it all for themselves. Our tech department certainly can't enable an organization around a leadership approach change like this. And so it's another moment for AI to step up and really facilitate this conversation, facilitate this mapping, to make sure it makes sense for your organization, for your leaders, and for your employees in your business. Thanks, Jake. On to number 3.
Excellent. Yes, ethical stewardship is pillar number 3. This is all about embedding fairness and transparency and accountability into every leadership decision you make. We're going to touch on some interesting variances in data that we're seeing across the benchmarks in the Americas, Asia Pacific, and then also EMEA as we define it at top employers, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And you're going to see kind of variances, but ethical stewardship, this is one we're seeing grow quite a bit across the world year over year. Last year, we asked top employers, how many of you have an ethical AI framework in place? And 27% said they had one or they were working on setting one up. Today, we asked that question, and it's 42% of the 2,400 top employers we work with. You might be wondering, what is an ethical AI framework if you don't have one? We wrote a research piece on it. We'll make sure to share it as a follow-on. But take a look at the ethical AI framework through the top employers website as well. This story is about a top employer we work with around the world, and I want to focus in on Volkswagen Group of North America. Garrett Spellinger is a valued participant of the program. He's the North American CHRO of Volkswagen Group of America. And Volkswagen's got over 500,000 employees. They were going through one of the largest human capital transformations, and still are, probably in human history. It's over 500,000 people globally at Volkswagen Group. And the Americas team was looking at a couple of things. They were looking at how they could deploy AI to focus on a specific massive job they had. They had 3,200 different job codes, okay? And they had 4,000 different job descriptions. And the idea was, how could they develop a tool that would help streamline a process that might take 3 to 6 months of work, right? Maybe 2 or 3 months, maybe 6 months if they pieced it out. And they wanted to figure out how they could bake that down into doing it in just a few hours. And what they wanted to do is simplify their job codes and simplify their job descriptions to follow and lie in basically kind of a simplicity looking forward. So what they did was they developed an internal tool, AI, and they basically fed it all the job codes, all the job descriptions, and they asked for the output of 3 different templates. So all 4,200 and all 3,000 job codes and descriptions all basically came down into 3 templates that they could then look at and say, from a human perspective, look at each kind of output and say, hey, this is good. Hey, we should tweak this one. But what it did was it took something that would take months and turned it into hours as far as analyzing data and consolidating it. And then what they saw was not only an improvement in consistency of job descriptions across North America, they also were trying to merge kind of cultures of organizations that they brought together, 2 different brands, right, within Volkswagen Group. And so they developed a new consistency, cohesion of culture, and probably one of the most important things when it comes to ethics of AI, a level of fairness, a level of consistency and fairness for the individual now when it comes to a hiring manager reviewing a job description and the needs for that. There was also more consistency and fairness for the individual. So that's actually an example of what's creating both efficiency and better outcomes for people. So what can you do? What's an action you can take? Establish your own ethical AI framework now. Don't wait. This is going to help you guide your design and deployment of new technologies looking forward. And maybe it's not the most aspirational framework to start, right? Maybe it's just what's our minimum, what's our floor of what we will expect. And then we'll look forward to saying, hey, as an ethical expectation, these are our requirements as far as minimums. That will also change the ideas that get presented that follow, probably more of a long-term ethical basis. So keep that in mind. That's what top employers are doing. Adrian, how does this work with the next pillar?
Thank you, Jake. Yeah, so we're already on pillar 4 here. So this is what we call applied empathy. So yeah, how do you, this is an optimization for our leaders, but AI to strengthen, not replace empathy and trust. It's really, yeah, how do we use AI to enhance our leaders' connection with individuals? And we jump into the next slide, please, Jake. This here, a lot of your leaders in your business will be using AI every day. I know I am. Most of you on this webinar, you'll be using it every day as well. It speeds things up. It's great for getting your response. You know, you're writing a comms to the business, whatever it might be. It's verbally so fluent. It's unbelievable, and the face validity of what comes back is very, very strong. But at the same time, we're also getting quite attuned to reading something and going, that's probably AI generated, and you know, all the tells are there, whether it's more hyphens than you'd normally use, or this is bold, or it's just a bit too slick, whatever it might be. So think of everything that we've trained over the years around authenticity in leadership. And there's a bit of tension here as well. Huge speed gain, even a slight quality gain, but perhaps, you know, perhaps it feels inauthentic. And we're highly, highly attuned as humans to feeling that kind of inauthenticity with something. Now, that said, what we do see here going on is top employers using tooling in what was perhaps HR business partner domain before to make sure leaders are really well trained. So through micro learning moments for the conversation that they have ahead. So whether it's a year-end review, a mid-year review, a promotion conversation, maybe a performance management conversation, being able to kind of role play with your AI tool is an amazing way of getting the right training for individuals in those kind of micro learning moments, you know, just when someone needs it before going in to that particular moment with the employee. You can see on the data there, 85% of top employers encourage self-reflection in leadership development, and it's a good set. We like this stat. It correlates with lots of those business outcomes I presented at the front end of this piece. But at the same time, just think about it for a moment. How do you encourage self-reflection without some sort of system for doing it? You know, some companies say, right, well, put 2 hours in your diary a week to train or reflect or whatever. Yeah, that's okay until it gets overrun by the latest, you know, important and urgent thing that comes into that leader's schedule. But using AI and tooling to prepare in small doses for what's ahead is a way of bringing self-reflection in a way that's really accessible. It takes the emotion out, and that's case study again that Jake presented at the front end. One of the things was the emotional tax when it comes to intensive exercises like innovation or working with someone who's just really different to me, because maybe I'm a commercial person and this R&D person's hard to work with. Using AI in the mix of that really kind of settles that down and helps things go faster. So again, thinking about what can we do here as HR is absolutely, lead this. Put it forward, because it won't be that everyone has the time to think about how to use these tools, and maybe you're doing this already and you're taking it for granted. But I can pretty much guarantee the rest of the leaders in your organization are not doing that. I mean, just as a fun exercise, if you want to get attention on this one, put a note around, maybe start with your team of leaders first and just say, with your chosen platform of choice, ask it for your year-end review. And then ask some follow-up questions as well. And, what am I like as a leader? How empathetic am I? What are my blind spots? I've done this recently, and honestly, it was utterly shocking. I mean, the accuracy felt utterly amazing, and there was quite a bit of learning in there as well, all based on my interrogations, with this very non-human tool over the last nearly 2 years. That's a fun way of getting attention, to then launch something like this to get people in the habit of using it where it's good in the moment. So back to you, Jake, for our final pillar.
Excellent. Thanks, A. Yes, last and certainly not least, systems awareness. This is really looking across all of the complexity, all the change, all the context, and having that into place. Adrian mentioned COVID earlier, which we all experienced. You felt the systems awareness when COVID was happening and it was impacting the employee experience in the workforce and how you were going to get business done, right? Or how are you going to advance the ball for people, but then also for customers. And so systems awareness is vital when it comes to the AI-powered leader. It has the capacity to really generate rapid insights, but also storm, form, and design these new ways of working that maybe you hadn't thought of before. So systems awareness, let's talk about an example of a top employer we work with called Sebo, T-S-E-B-O. They're a services company. They offer a slew of services. One service in particular they offer is a cleaning service, right? Cleaning services. So they have a number of employees that are professionals to help come in and clean on a recurring basis. And those different sites they're showing up to, right, as an example for systems awareness, might be consistent, right? It might be an office space or a manufacturing facility, but it also might be a new place they haven't been before. There could be variances of cleanup. Maybe it's a big spill, maybe something happened, or maybe it's a recurring piece and there's something new that's taken place. And so when you think about areas like compliance, HR, client strategy, client delivery, but also employee well-being, Sabo has a really interesting approach where they had leadership alignment take place across the different working functions at the company. And they basically designed this kind of these pods of working with that leadership alignment and also individuals in the field working every day. And what they wanted to do was use AI to enhance their strategy while also maintaining this macro kind of awareness and strong ethical foundation. So an example of how top employers like Sabo are doing this is camera technology. Maybe it's on a mobile device, or maybe it's on a camera that's in place at a client site. And what that AI can do is then look at what is the spill or maybe the issue and recommend back to the crew and staff what products to bring, how many people to staff. It's both a productivity and optimization piece when it comes to delivering on what the client needs, and it's an employee well-being piece. Maybe there's a cleanup that goodness might require a hazmat suit or requires gear that will protect the person, and coming prepared with that gear now using AI helps impact the full system, right? Not just your client delivery, delivering on time, achieving revenue, but also employee well-being, keeping employees safe, right? This becomes about a wellness piece as well. So that's just a quick example. Another example we heard at the HR Symposium a couple weeks ago is like a lifeguard as well, right? A lifeguard that might have cameras surrounding the pools, the beaches that they're supporting. And it's the idea where they can sense and respond, right? Hey, it looks like someone has interesting behavior in pool 3, hits their watch, their smartwatch, go check it out. That's the idea around systems awareness. And the idea is the same as what Sabo is implementing across their team. And so what can you do? It's really about creating these cross-organizational forums to guide strategy with a big picture view, because you can't guide strategy unless you have people doing the work, advising and guiding on where we can apply. And this is really HR's role in this, right? When it comes to empowering our leaders with AI, HR's role is to help guide the organization, right? I think we went through an experimentation phase over the last year. Now it's really about how do you guide the organization forward. So those are the 5 pillars of the AI-powered leader. Adrian, why don't you close us off with this section, then we'll get into some specific data bits for this team.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We'll finish up with a quote here. So we say here, AI can power your organization, but only human leadership can give it purpose. And that's back to that mixing of all the automation, all the AI benefits that you can get with that absolute need to create meaningful work for humans, and then balance out the gaps that the tech has, the reasoning gaps, the strategy gaps. You know, we know that AI cannot predict black swan events, whereas it can do very sort of single A to B process steps, you know, very, very well. So we also underline purpose here because, you know, going back to our methodology about being very fascinated about where HR moves the needle when it comes to business growth, purpose is one of those ones we've been monitoring for years, which has such an outside impact. So if your organization is not yet incredibly clear on its purpose, and even I would say that the second step is, if you have a purpose, how do you activate it so that each and every employee in your organization absolutely feels that purpose? And often like to use the example of DHL, which is a globally certified top employer. You know, DHL is moving packages from A to B all over the world all the time. You know, perhaps not the most obvious business when it comes to purpose activation. But if you're an employee in DHL, you know that they have a disaster relief part of the business. They're a logistics piece. So, you know, if something happens somewhere in the world, you can volunteer yourself, put your hand up, and, you know, maybe one day you're looking at customs receipts of goods going across the border. The next day, you could be flown in to be part of this disaster relief team, using all that, you know, great service DHL has in moving things around to get the, you know, really critical things to individuals who need them around the world. So just, you know, one way one of the top employers around the world does activate its purpose. Massive links to profitability, revenue growth, market share growth as well, and also those HR benefits that we like around internal promotion rates, minimizing churn, and of course looking after employee engagement as well, if you can really activate purpose in your organization. The question then is how, because a purpose is a very big, ambiguous thing. It might have a statement, but bringing it to life is one thing. Jake's going to show us a little bit about how you can use data to do that in your organization.
Yeah, great. So quick thing you may be thinking now as an HR leader at your organization is the AI-powered leader insights are excellent. How can I bring these to my organization and realize them? We're going to give you access to the report, but a key thing is to acknowledge context, right? Context is, maybe not at your organization, but context is only 46% of business leaders see their org's HR function as strategic, right? You see that comparison on finance versus supply chain. This is the brutal reality. This is the reality you'll face when you're bringing, you know, something to be budgeted for to the finance team. This is maybe what you're feeling, right? So how are top employers really changing this perception using data, and also seeing where they can apply AI in their business to guide them forward? We wanted to look at, remember those 6 pillars Adrian walked you through on the survey domains and the data set we have. We broke those down into the subtopics. And we wanted to show you some regional differentiation across those subtopics. So you can see business strategy, people strategy, all the way down to sustainability, onboarding, performance, well-being. You can see how consistently top employers are doing each of these globally. And you can see some unique nuances of the Americas difference. So this includes North America and Latin America. Asia Pacific includes all of Asia Pacific and Oceania. And then EMEA is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And so some interesting call outs here is that the Americas are really leading on purpose and values, ethics, integrity, diversity and inclusion, and sustainability, right? Those are areas the Americas are shining through on. Asia Pacific, my goodness, look at the rigor and the health of the HR departments here. I think we have a lot to learn from the Asia Pacific kind of globally when it comes to systematizing and measuring HR health as a metric. You can see they're really focused in on how they apply digital HR, right? And then you can also see some of the onboarding, offboarding measurement, understanding how they improve the employee experience on the way in and on the way out to maintain a strong relationship. On the other side, you can see in EMEA, through Europe, Middle East, and Africa, this is a broad, vast region that we're covering here as well. People strategy is leading. Work environment is leading. Employer branding is very strong as well. And the one edge that it seems the EMEA difference has over APAC and Americas is that focus on well-being, right? We have something we can learn from one another. But what this shows, I think, globally is that there's a lot that we can complement with one another globally. And so if you're leading a multinational team that has people in every region, the next question you're asking yourself is, how is leadership and leadership expectations, how is that different in each one of these regions we have people leaders in? What's the cultural context? Right, so we broke that down for you too. So we looked at in one of our kind of sub pillars of leadership, right, that falls into the overall strategy piece. We looked at leadership practices. So you can see them below: leadership strategy, consistently doing it; leadership development strategy, communication; competency model, being up to date. Is there data-driven leadership selection and promotion processes? Are you having leadership development KPIs you're using consistently? Do you have feedback on it? And then self-reflection, as Adrian talked about. You can see the blue bar is the Americas consistency, gold bar is APAC consistency, green is EMEA's consistency on their average. So some 3 areas I want to call out for each one. Americas seems to be leading on leadership competency model to date versus the global benchmark and their peers. You can see APAC is well ahead of the benchmark on data-driven leadership when it comes to selection and promotion. And then the interesting insight for the EMEA team: self-reflection for leaders seem to be highest there as it relates to the benchmark. And that might tie back to some of the well-being components you saw there. So that's the idea. That's some of the broader data you can take from today when applying AI-powered leadership. And the question you might be asking yourself is, where do you fall on the benchmark? Right? Where does your organization fall, so you know where to prioritize best to both amplify your employer brand to keep people and also align HR practices to growth? We're going to move into the Q&A section. And while we do that, Adrian brought some gifts along for you.
We're heading towards the holiday season, definitely. We're definitely in Jake's part of the world anyway. Thanksgiving coming up first, Christmas elsewhere, and other celebrations are available. We did promise you the AI-powered leadership report, so that's your first QR code on the left-hand side as well. And then Jake gave you a bit of a glimpse of how organizations who are in the Top Employers program interact with some of the data in there. That's at a high level. Remember, it double clicks all the way down to the policy and practice level as well. But if you'd like a free HR health check yourself for your organization, that's your second QR code that's on the right. And I think we'll leave those up and throw any questions our way. I can see one has come in here. So are there many organizations who are opting out of AI due to data privacy concerns? That's an interesting one. Just while we ever think about that, I can comment on that for our own organization actually, because there was and it was in the HR part of our own business as well, where just trying to get some AI tooling set up for us to interrogate our systems around any kind of those HR BP questions that come up, whether it's how much holiday have I got left, who reports to who, these kind of questions, trying to ring fence the architecture to make sure I can't say, well, how much does the Top Employers CEO get paid? Or those kind of questions. There's a bit about data privacy there, and then the setup really is crucial. That also feeds back to the first pillar, actually, is making sure that your managers, your leaders, if they're thinking about HR tooling for themselves, they know how to ask these questions, great questions like this one, so that it does work and doesn't cause problems. Anything to add?
Yeah, just to tee in from the kind of America standpoint, you see a lot of the governance committees, the compliance teams weighing in on AI's use, the whole idea behind the walled garden, right, being in place to protect a company's data from maybe getting leaked out there more broadly. But I think just to comment on that one, this comes back to the ethical AI leadership framework as well. And one of the pillars within the ethical AI leadership framework is explainability. Can you explain in simple terms what's going on and be accurate with that? And so IBM's another top employer we work with, and we certified them in India today. And we had one of their executive team members, Carolyn Carter, on the HR team, talking with us at a dinner in New York around their ethical AI framework. And what they said was they had a board of about 30 people on the ethical kind of committee, ethical framework committee. And basically the idea is you can only present how you're going to use AI to that committee. It only happens a few times a year, right? They're pretty agile with it, but it has to basically hit the minimum of their ethical AI framework. And part of that framework is also governance compliance. And I kind of asked the question, hey, how many of these ideas have been passed through? And just about all of them have been passed through, but it was because folks were only bringing ideas forward on how to use AI that hit at least the minimum of their framework. And so what I'd say to you is when you're considering data, security, concern, number one, we have 2,400 other top employers. Some of them are doing it really well. Some of them are just getting started. We connect them together to learn from one another. Two is start with that ethical AI framework and make sure you have that cross kind of leadership alignment with your legal and compliance team so that as you're moving forward, you're not doing it blindly. Those are my two pieces of advice. And of course, the third being, when you have a visual of where you stand, a lot of HR teams are making the mistake of applying AI in areas where they're not very good, to be quite frank. They know they're not good, so let's throw AI at it. And what they're finding is that's failing, right? No surprise. What we're seeing is that when top employers work with us and they can see areas they're ahead of the benchmark versus behind, it becomes very clear on where they should apply AI first. It's the areas they're strong in, where their workflows are easy, they're consistent, they're in place, they're strength. Where they're not as strong, that's where we say, we're gonna help you improve the practices, right, with the community, and then you can apply AI later. So that's my take. Other ones, Jay, popping up?
Yeah, we've got one more here. So what do you think is the most challenging pillar? You and I have done this a few times now. That's not a question we've had come up before. So I've had the advantage of thinking about it for a second just while you were talking. For me, I think there's many quick wins across the first four pillars. Hopefully you've seen that as well as we've gone through that, and we've tried to put what you can do tomorrow into this piece as well. I would say though that whole systems piece, the fifth one that we looked at, is the most challenging because it requires definition to really understand the whole system and everything interacts with everything, of course, but not to get too intimidated by that and just think about, well, where practically can we win? The swimming pool example that Jake gave was a great one. So just thinking about the lifeguard system in terms of what can really practically help. The SABO example is another one. I know they do work on operating theatres as well. And just having visibility of what's happened in there before to make sure you've got the right qualified people with the right kit turning up to just make that room safe for the next operation. That's systems thinking. But not thinking about the all systems within SABO. That's not something that necessarily comes very naturally to all of us. It's really interesting stuff, but finding the wins in something as broad as that, I think is quite a challenge.
Well said.
Yeah, anything to add, Jake?
No, I think you covered it. I would agree with that one.
Oh, good. I think that's our last question at the moment, which also brings us a bit to time. I think we promised 45 minutes on here, we're 48 in. So just a huge thank you for joining us today to get into this topic. Do feel free to follow up with questions, anything for us as well. There'll be a piece that goes back as well with the data points that we talked about, the reports, and also hopefully you have a pop up at the bottom of your screens now asking for a survey with feedback on this particular one. Do give us that feedback. That helps us make sure the next one is even more applicable to what it is that you're looking for. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.